Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 22nd edition of Today in the World of Wrestling. We are reviewing the show that was Monday Night Raw on August 8th, 2016. And John, I don't want to give my opinion on what I actually thought about the show until we get to actual TitWoW. So if you want to spoil that for yourself, you can. Otherwise, let's just get into this.
I'll stay mum about it as well then. We'll talk about it on
Okay.
TwitWow.
So we got a few different segments involving Mick Foley. The first of which was just the announcement that he invited Daniel Bryan to clear the air regarding the whole Brock Orton situation. And then of course, we also find out Puff Daddy is going to be on Raw tonight. Then later on, we got to see Foley on the phone with Stephanie McMahon. I guess she really is pushing for Foley to kind of get into the 21st century with the touch tablet and that kind of stuff. And next thing you know, Sasha Banks shows up. She says she wants a handicap match with Charlotte and Dana Brooke at Brooklyn. Wow, at SummerSlam. We're in the main roster now, not NXT. And Mick Foley sets up Sasha versus Dana, where if Sasha wins, Dana will be banned from ringside, and if Dana wins, it'll be the handicap match that Sasha originally asked for.
Yeah, very interesting developments here. Good segment with Sasha.
So then Puff Daddy shows up in Mick Foley's office, and the New Day also show up, and this segment didn't actually achieve anything other than just kind of, the New Day interacting with Puff Daddy and Mick Foley being out of his element.
Right.
That's about it, right?
Yep.
So then the main final segment involving Mick Foley was his interaction with Daniel Bryan in the ring. They both get a little on the passive-aggressive side. I'll say Bryan was a little bit more aggressive than passive, whereas Mick Foley was a little more passive and subtle with his jabs at SmackDown. But at the end of the day, what it ultimately led to was Mick Foley creating a Cesaro versus Rusev match for the United States Championship that main evented Raw.
Yeah, a main event that made the crowd actually come to life.
So to set that up, we can go back to earlier on in the night where we actually had Sheamus versus Cesaro, and Cesaro won.
Yeah, second straight week he beat Sheamus.
And we also had a Rusev segment where he and Lana were celebrating their marriage, and Rusev was just so pissed off at the crowd because they wouldn't get behind it. Lana kept on trying to tell them, get your phones out, get your camera phones out, take some pictures and that kind of stuff, and they weren't doing it, and they were angry, and they were booing, and then Rusev got angry and called them all jealous American pigs, and then Roman Reigns' music hits, and it was a pretty big pop at first, followed by the expected boos, and then he gets in the ring, cuts a promo on Rusev, and eventually this leads to a physical altercation where Roman shoves Rusev, who ends up bumping into Lana, whose face meets the wedding cake.
This segment made me groan. I mean, Rusev tried his best, but the crowd wasn't into it, and Reigns didn't really add anything at all to me.
So then backstage, Rusev complained to Mick Foley about Roman, and all Foley did was tell him that he gets to defend the title against Roman at SummerSlam. So now Rusev has to defend the title against Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, even though Roman didn't actually earn that shot. And Rusev had to defend his title against Cesaro in the main event tonight, which we can now kind of talk about. Rusev did end up winning, but it was almost exclusively thanks to Sheamus' interference. Sheamus actually hit a brogue kick on Cesaro after a ref bump that would have allowed Cesaro to win had the ref not been down. Sheamus brogue kick, Rusev, I guess it was kind of like a shoot kick or a standing Gamangiri to the back of Cesaro's head, and that allowed Rusev to beat him and retain his championship. So all this build up for Cesaro getting a title match because of what Mick Foley said last week, and this is what it leads to.
Yeah, Cesaro getting screwed over again.
And then, of course, afterwards, Roman gets the, oh my god, you beat up the guy that beat Cesaro pop after he spears Rusev.
Milking off of other people's overness. Again is Roman Reigns.
Yeah, of course. So let's kind of fill in all the gaps here. We already told what happened at the beginning of the show and at the end of the show. Let's fill in the gaps. Enzo and Cass had a really interesting segment where they came out. Enzo recapped what happened with him and Sasha Banks last week, and then Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens come out. They argue. Eventually it leads to an Enzo Jericho match which Jericho wins, but only by disqualification, because after he hit the Codebreaker, which surely would have beaten Enzo anyway, Big Cass comes in and gives him the big boot.
Yep, Cass coming in only because Kevin Owens, I think, grabbed Enzo's foot or did something to kind of provoke the situation. So yeah, Jericho wins.
We had another Braun Strowman squash match against a kid named Jarrell Nelson, and it was hilarious.
Took the words right out of my mouth, partner.
We had a return match, Darren Young versus Titus O'Neil, and 50-50 booking bites the big one when Darren Young gets the tight grab roll up on Titus O'Neil for the win, and Bob Backlund is happy about this.
Yeah, this definitely raised the ire of a lot of people. Backwards storytelling. I don't really know what's going on here.
The Dudley Boys came out, and then Neville came out, and he had a mystery partner, and it turned out to be Sin Cara, but it didn't actually matter because Neville ended up pinning Devon Dudley with the red arrow.
Yeah, Dudleys keep on having miscommunications. They're irrelevant.
And in my opinion, the two segments that were the highlight of the night, Seth Rollins cut an in-ring promo about Finn Balor. He talked about how Finn Balor was a made-up name, talks about his own legacy, says about how he broke the beast and he crushed the face that runs the place and he took down the Roman Empire. And this was just a really, really well done promo by Seth Rollins.
Thoroughly enjoyed Seth. He keeps commanding that mic.
And the only other segment left to talk about, Finn Balor had a really well done kind of introduction to his name, because Seth Rollins brought up it was a made-up name earlier, so Finn explains where he came up with it, explains where the Finn came from, where the Balor came from, and it was a really, really well done video package.
Highlight of the show for me, easily.
So that was Raw, ladies and gentlemen. That is all that happened on Raw tonight, and we will see you for TitWoW.